Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Zeoni here. I'm here with Anders, leader of the Simiwinny Sears. We're just here to do the week 1 breakdown and recap for Draft League.
Yep, we're here bringing down and breaking down the events of the week, which is all available on the PTG Facebook page. So if you haven't watched any of the matches, be sure to check them out.
Awesome. So we're going to move over to the Red Division Leaderboard. Very first week, we've seen some big wins, big losses, and then a couple of draws that have ended up going to HP differential.
Yeah, so we got two draws, including points draws, including my match, which is the Lionheart Lucarios and the what's his name again?
That's
The
the Birmingham Buzzwolves.
Birmingham Buzzwells, yeah. Birmingham Buzzwells. Those both came to draws with the Lionheart Lucarios winning his one on HP differential and me winning my one on HP differential um, against the San Diego Wingulls.
We've had
And then we had a Gibson Garbadors versus the Atlanta Braveries, which Jay won that, the Atlanta Braveries, 3-0. Um, and then you have the Utah Mews versus the Mid Valley Meows, and that was 1-4-0 to the Utah Mews. And then finally, you have the Blazing Torchics versus our own Bam of the mighty Psyducks, and he got absolutely destroyed at 5-0, the biggest loss of week 1.
for Red Division at least.
Oh, second, yeah, this was second. Spoilers.
Yeah. So there's been some really strong battles straight off the bat for the very first week. We've already seen some upsets and some bigger differentials than we were expecting between certain members of the draft. So yeah, this is going to be one to watch out for in regards to how the season's going to go ahead. I honestly can't pick at this point
Definitely.
where it's going to go.
Yeah. The thing with Bam's style, I think he's one who he'll either sweep a whole team and get massive differential, or he will just his plan will crack and then he loses massively. So I'm not too worried for him in terms of his -5 differential at the moment. We've seen
Especially.
him lose the first 1 or 2 rounds before and then massively come back. So
And it's nice to see some new
but,
faces in there that are really shaking things up. We've got no idea where they're gonna go
yeah.
with this season, especially with so many shakeups we have with our drafting and with our tiers this round.
Yeah. Possibly. I mean, if you look at the leaderboard there, all the new people are in the playoff spots in the top 6. It's all returners who are in the bottom 4 at the moment. Obviously, this is just week 1, but it's interesting to note, as you say.
Yeah. So next week for Red Division, we've got the Atlanta Braveries versing off against the Birmingham Buzzwolves. Then the Mid Valley Meowths off against the Lionheart Lucarios. Your Simiwinny Sears going up against the Gibson Garbadors. The Mighty Psyducks up against our leaderboard number 1, the Utah Mews. And then the Blazing Torchics up against the San Diego Wingulls for Red Division. And we're going to move on to Blue Division now. So, very similar sort of spread in the leaderboard. We did end up with a complete 6-0 sweep at the very end of this round. Literally, I think just a few hours before the week officially ended. And no draws, so nothing came down to HP differential. So we haven't seen those 0 diffs in this leaderboard, but it's still pretty close.
Lots of ones here, either +1s or -1s, making up like half the board there. Kind of interesting.
And this one has a little bit more of a mix. We've got new and old competitors in the top 6 spots for the leaderboard here.
Yeah.
So Harun with the Ankara Arcanines, he's a returned PTG drafter, but we've got the Anaheim Appletons in number 2. That's his first time in PTG Draft League, so it's going to be interesting to see how this comes out over the weeks. The Dragonites as well in 4th place there on the leaderboard is a newcomer, but otherwise for the rest of them, at least for Blue Division, at least they're all return PTG drafters. So yeah, I think we're in for an interesting one.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely massive win for Harron here. Yeah, +6 differential is a full-on team wipe. It's done really well. So that is the strongest individual match of the week 1, of course. And then we have the is it Dragon Knight? No, that's what's the Appletons, isn't it? Yeah.
Anaheim Appletons, they were versed off against the Fire Corviknights.
Yes. Yeah, another really strong match. And who's SS again? I've forgotten half the team names. That's so bad. SS is, of course, that's Roops, the sneaky Sable Eyes.
I keep thinking he's still the crusty Kinglers.
Well, it really, because my Simiwinny Sears was reduced to SS last draft. So when I see SS, I get like a little bit confused. I'm like, wait, is that me? No, sneaky Sable Eyes. So Roops is another obviously returning. So Harron is a really strong returning player. He's made playoffs. I think both times that he's been in draft, he's made playoffs, if I remember correctly. Roops is another really strong player. So another one to keep an eye out for. The Dragon Knights is a newer player to PTG, but very good reputation, very strong. So definitely one to look out for. Then we have our champion here of the PKS Noob Kings, returning champion, the only returning champion coming back for this draft. He's done a respectable 1-0. And then we have the Bow Russian Boltons, who another returner, but he skipped last season. He's got -1 loss, not a big loss. Then we have the Ottawa Superiors, another returner, did incredibly well last season. Just another -1 loss. THC, what's that
the
one?
Holy Crusaders.
Oh, the Holy Crusaders, Hassan. That's a new player to this draft, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know much about him or his team, but worth keeping an eye on all these matches. And then we have the Fire Corviknights, who is another new one. And LAL is Danny. Yeah, another new player. So the bottom 3 are new players, but that, once again, just like with BAM, that doesn't mean you should rule them out, and definitely things can turn around in the coming weeks.
I think people don't play quite as safe at the start. Everyone likes to sort of play around and sort of push their teams to the limits. People get a bit more conservative with their game styles, sort of mid to late season in the draft.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely feeling out, and especially if they need to make any trades or something, it's sometimes quite nice to push your team into things that maybe you're testing the waters with them to see if there's any weaknesses in the team that you might want to trade out.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Awesome.
So next week we'll see the PKS Noobs Kings versing off against the Fire Corviknights, Ottawa Superiors versing the Anaheim Appletons, Sneaky Sable Eyes against the Bow Russian Boltons, Los Angeles Lycanrocks versing the Dragon Knights, and the leaderboard number 1, Ankara Arcanines versing the Holy Crusaders. So it's going to be interesting to see where we go in the next couple of weeks. Really, really looking forward to what we're going to see out of these players.
I'm predicting some shake-ups. I don't think you're going to be able to look at these leaderboards now and predict what's going to happen. This is all going to change. That's my prediction.
And that's pretty much it for the majority of drafts. The leaderboard at the start almost never reflects the leaderboard at the end of the season.
No, exactly.
So we'll have a look at the weekly matchups. So in the first of the red division, we had the Lionheart Lucarios versus the Birmingham Buzzwolves. This one coming down to the HP differential. Very similar teams in regards to what tiers they brought, but yeah, this one was a very tight game. There's some very interesting plays.
Yeah, for sure. It was a interesting match, I think. We saw a little bit of Ordino stall there. I was hoping to see something more with the Ordino. We didn't see much of that. We have lots of regenerator mons here, so I believe Ordino's regenerator, but definitely Slow King and Amoongus are. So lots of soaking in hits. I'd be interested to know how tanky or how much special defense investment Slowking had, as it didn't seem to be taking. I'm guessing he was mostly either defense or special attack invested, as he wasn't taking hits off of Moongus that well, but he was a Carmine set. So I'm wondering if he was going for a pseudo king sweep here, which didn't pay off, but it certainly was doing a good job of keeping alive, as Regenerator is one of the best abilities in the game for draft. Sadly, we didn't get to see any Comfey action. Comfey would have been absolutely amazing against the enemy team here with Crocodile. Reelaboom couldn't have done much to it. Slowking couldn't do much to it. Crocodile and Tyrantrum were both weak to it. And Jolteon, it wasn't going to be hitting it that hard, and Comfey was going to be outspeeding it with his priority. So it was a shame that Comfey was lost so early. Yeah, I mean, you can see how this ended up as a draw. We've got very similar teams here in Reelaboom, Dragon Knight. It was an interesting match. Be sure to give it a watch, as with all of these matches.
Yep. So, second one for Red Division, we had the Atlanta Braveries versus the Gippsland Garbadors. Yeah, Jay's team, the Atlanta Braveries, was very scary to me. Scotty's team had a lot of power behind it, but Jay's team just seemed to really counter that power that Scotty could bring.
Yeah. See, on the surface of it, I'm almost more scared of Scotty's team here. Clefable is the best tank out of everything they've got here. But Scotty could definitely have dealt with it if he was planned well. The thing here was there was a major misplay about giving spoilers that Scotty done, and it would be interesting to see how the match would have gone if that hadn't have happened. Scizor is an amazing bring, as always, to anything. So that probably would have dealt with it. I don't really remember. And we did see, we saw how Scotty plans to use Dub Ball, at least in the first match. That was one thing I said in the summary video that I was wanting to see, how to use Dub Ball. So we've got the Cotton Guard and Body Press, which is pretty powerful. But yeah, Jay's team overall was very scary. Clefable is a really tanky, strong fairy. Scizor is just one of the best, probably the best offensive steel Pokemon out there. And just the raw power behind Porygon Z and Surfetched. Even Arachronid, getting the webs up, and you got the raw water and bug power. It's just crazy. So, but then on the other hand, you have Barraskewda and Dragapult on the other end. Dragapult, I've said multiple times, I think is the scariest choice in S tier. So, definitely an interesting match. Both of them I want to keep an eye out on.
Definitely. So we had for round 3, we had the Utah Mews versus the Mid Valley Meowths. Devon brought a lot of C tiers, half his team with his C tiers. So
none of the beats. Let me double check what his B tiers are. I'll get it. I have it ready on my phone, so it won't take me long. So his Mid Valley Meowth. So he didn't bring Gothitelle, Hitmonlee, or Spiritomb, which is kind of interesting. See, I really like Manectric, and Lapras had a place here for sure, especially against Salamence and Togekiss. I think he really wanted to prove Pseudo Widow. He can make Pseudo Widow work. And I did actually trial him, and he made moves in this that he outpredicted in the trials. And I'm starting to think that maybe nerves are getting to him a little bit. I think he wants to prove himself. Maybe he doesn't want to lose, basically, like last draft. And I think he started both overthinking and reacting too fast. And I think it definitely cost him the game at the beginning here. Both of them have really strong teams here. So if you look at things like you got Lantern, which is perfect counter for Lapras here. Mamoswine is just absolutely insane against most his team. Skamori and Pseudo Widow can potentially deal with Mamoswine, and Manectric can get some chip off. Same thing with Garchomp. Well, no, actually, Ice Shard would deal with Garchomp. Mamoswine absolutely countered most of Devon's team. It was always going to be the case that you'd have to get it down with chip rather than one big strong hit. But other than that, I think Garchomp on a 1-to-1 generally outperforms Salamence unless it can pull off a Dragon Dance. Togekiss, Pseudo Widow, Manectric, Skamori even to an extent, although most Togekiss would probably carry Flamethrower or Fire Blast for the Skamori, but Manectric and Pseudo Widow would have been able to easily deal with Togekiss. And Weezing as well. If you Weezing, what does he have to deal with Weezing? He would struggle a bit with Weezing here. He doesn't have his Psychic on him. Yeah, I don't know what his plan was for Weezing, actually, now that I think about it. He can't be hit by Earthquake, and he hasn't brought any Psychic. Oh, I think he might have had Psychic on Lapras, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah. But it was an interesting team, but the Utah Muse definitely... From the minute that...
Pretty much from the
the
first
first
move, wasn't
major
it?
misplay, yeah. The first major misplay, she had controlled the whole match. Devon was on the back foot. Definitely one to look out for. If she can have that sort of control in every match, definitely a contender for winning this draft.
So we've got your match now, which was versus the San Diego Wingulls. This was another one that came down to the HP diff. This
I'll let you commentate this one.
No. I'll let you have the honors on that one. It was a very exciting match, though, I will say.
Very back and forth. That's how I found it. It constantly felt like... I don't think either me or Kasim really knew who was in control at any one time. It was a constant fight for control of the match. And occasionally one of us would get something on the other. And as you can see, we only lost 2 Pokemon each. So this probably could have gone way on longer in Showdown. It was a great match overall. His team was really scary for me. It was definitely something I trialed a lot against. A lot of thought went into my team. If I was to change anything now, I was really stuck on keeping Nidoqueen in the match because in a few of the trials I managed to get Stealth Rocks up. But looking back, that was the wrong choice. There was a few choices I could have made that would have been better than Nidoqueen because she was just not fast enough to deal with most of Kasim's threats, even with a Choice Scarf.
I think this was one of those matches that came down to the winner was always going to be the one who did the least amount of misplays, and it was so tight. Both of you were playing so cautiously, so carefully that it was just going to be that tiny little thing that you didn't think of that it was going to cost the match. And when it came down to HP differential, that's just taking the wrong hit on the wrong one.
I wonder if her generator won me the match at the end there. Our HPs must have been so similar. So Slowbro getting his HP back on a switch is always helpful with HP differential, I guess. But yeah, crazy close match.
Another good match ruined by the timer. I can't really say that.
Come on, Brilliant Diamond, change this, please.
No, I'm not particularly interested in seeing a 117 turn match on Showdown, to be honest.
Just a customized timer would be nice. But anyway, we are getting off topic.
We'll move on to we'll move on to the next. And so the last one we'll go over, which was actually the very first one for the entire tournament, for the entire season, was the Blazing Torchics versus the mighty Psyducks. I'm not really sure what to say about this one.
Thick fat Snorlax, he could not deal with it.
No.
That was what got him. Ultimately, he was relying on the raw power of the solar power Charizard, which is insane, of course, but just the Snorlax just went all over them. Nate had control the whole match, sweeping with Volcarona in the end, and knowing exactly when to switch to deal with the threats that Bam was bringing to try deal with things like Snorlax and stuff. It was a great match.
Some interesting tactics that Bam tried to pull out, but just with anything, sometimes if you play a little bit too interesting, that can end up costing you the match if it doesn't fall exactly how you need it to.
Yeah. If there's anything I would change, he sacked Torkoal really early, and I don't think that was the right play. I think there was a few things. Solar Power Charizard couldn't deal with Snorlax, but it may have been able to hold on longer for other things. But that's very hypothetical ifs and buts, because that was the first thing that happened in the match. So it'll be really interesting to see what Bam does next week.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the leaderboard looks like after week 2.
Yes, for sure.
So we'll move on to the blue division now. So first up we have the Fire Corviknights versus the Anaheim Appletons. That was a fairly decent differential there with the 4-0 win to the Appletons.
Yeah.
Another team that was very interesting, half of Jeff's team were C tiers, but they all, well, actually one of them never showed his face, did they? Or two of them? One of them never showed their face at least. But the rest of the team, I guess, was strong enough that that little Tangela never had to come out into battle. I'd be very interested to see what that Tangela could do, though. We didn't really get a chance to see it shine. But Jolteon definitely shone in that one.
Yeah. It really goes to show you there's a reason most people have a fast pivot in these teams. If you get a really strong fast pivot, you can really just wreck without much holding you back. And the Fire Corviknights really just didn't have anything to deal with it. Anything that can pull in the Jolteon and stop it from just volt switching its way to victory. As quickly for what Tangela can do, Tangela is another great regenerator mon. You slap Eviolite on it, can tank really strongly. Leech Seed, Regenerator. So he's actually got 2 Regenerator mons here, Autono and Tangela here. Dragapult, as I said previously, I think is possibly the strongest S tier pick this draft. Both teams looking strong from just the outlook. But as I say, the Jolteon being able to just pivot and having nothing to control it is just going to do some damage. Stuff that could have dealt with it maybe is stuff like... So we've got quite a few slow mons here on the enemy team, and I believe Chandelure can set up Trick Room. I believe Xatu can set up Trick Room. We could have had a really nice Trick Room team here for the Fire Corviknights, and I think that would have messed the Appletons up with this particular set of mons, but yeah, we didn't see that.
So our our previous champion, the PKS Noobs Kings, up against the Bow Russian Boltons. Lior didn't bring his S tier at all. He left it benched and brought half his C tier instead.
Yeah. It really goes to show you how you have to match up your mons exactly with the enemy teams. It's more important to try and outpredict what your enemy is bringing and have counters for them than it is to get necessarily the strongest mon. And we see that here with his win. Especially crazy when you think he has Boom here, who can absolutely deal with Mamoswine very well. But yeah, really strong team. I really, really liked Leo's Cypher. I remember this match, and just the Eviolite Cypher is just crazy. It's one of those Pokemon that, if you can get it to work, it's absolutely insane. It's got the exact same stats as Scizor, but it's a different typing. That's the only difference, and it doesn't get access to Bullet Punch, of course. But the fact that he managed to make it tanky, but also the raw damage it was dealing with its dual Wing Beats. Dual Wing Beats did such a big favor for Cypher. Stab Flying is one of the best offensive typings in the game. So I think the MVP of this match really was Cypher here. We have some really strong teams on both sides, of course. As you know, Nidoking was one of my first choices for ST. It actually was my first choice, but you're sniped. So I got my Nido Queen instead. Comfy is awesome with his super priority. And yeah, but as I say, I think Cypher here was really the MVP. It dealt with most of the Bow Russian Bolton's team quite well.
It would have been very interesting to see this match play out. I do believe this one went to timer as well.
Yeah.
I still think it still was impossible to 100% say who was going to come out on top of that one. But yeah, by the end, Leo definitely had the footing to potentially take away the win there, or confidently take away the win.
It's always hard to 100% say who would win after the timer because it's easy to imagine scenarios.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
A lot of things in Pokemon, a lot of times you're waiting for a crit or a misplay or an accident or misprediction. That's what can get the wins and the losses, and you can be losing, 4-2, and the enemy team will just make one misclick, and you can get a Dragon Dance off, and then you sweep the whole team. It can be as simple as that.
Yeah, that's happened to me before, so it hurts. So, Dragonites, Jeremy's team, versus Vincent, the Ottawa Superiors. I'm trying to remember this match. This one was a little while back.
So this one had a really... Oops, sorry. I just hit the mic. I remember I was absolutely sure Vincent was going to win this when I saw his Sableye at the beginning. He was just completely out-predicting the Dragon Knights with his Sableye. It was actually kind of beautiful to watch. But then my one criticism was he was keeping in Mons a little bit too long and not switching. Of course, it's really easy to say that in hindsight. I've done many a similar thing. But some of the Mons were staying in a little bit too long. There was a point where Mr. Rhyme could have Trick Roomed, and that really would have messed the enemy team up. Because he was always going to take 2 hits. And he could either get a Psychic off and then die the next turn, or he could get a Trick Room up, but then get a guaranteed Psychic. And I think Vincent really missed an opportunity by not Trick Rooming. Had that one section. And he stayed in with Sableye too long. He was really playing well with Sableye at the beginning, but then he kind of didn't take advantage of the encore turns. So, yeah, it went to timer, as you can see. But I think the beginning of the match was completely controlled by Vincent, and the Dragon Knights took over towards the end. And they started... I was leaning towards the Dragon Knights having won, of course.
I think
at the end.
I think this one was guaranteed. The Dragonites were going to win this one,
Yeah.
even if there was another 10 minutes left on the timer. It was just at this point stalling the inevitable.
Yeah. I don't actually remember how it ended, but we're 2-1 and all that. Yeah, I think you're right. I just remember being really impressed by the Sableye plays at the beginning.
So, speaking of Sableyes, we had the Sneaky Sableyes versus the Holy Crusaders.
Yes.
That's a scary, very tanky team on the right side there.
Yeah.
Toxapeck, as soon as I see Toxapeck, I know we're in for a bad time.
Especially since a lot of people aren't carrying psychics this draft. With the exception here of Meowstic, but
was this
you
the
know what most
offensive
people seem...
Meowstic? Was this the battle with the
Yes.
offensive? Yeah, that was
This...
very interesting playing. It was quite fun to see Meowstic going on the offensive for this
It almost
match.
never is used offensively, so it's kind of nice. I remember in the summary we really wanted to see Cottony. We wanted to see how it is used, and I still want to see how it can be used, because I do think Hippotas and Cottony may not have been the right choices for this match.
No. Cottony, I wasn't sure what was going on with that. I mean, Prankster's such a good ability, especially on a C tier, but yeah, I just feel like there were missed opportunities for Cottony to shine in this match.
Yeah.
And yeah, unfortunately, we still haven't had a chance to see what it can really do.
I would like to see what it can do in the future for sure.
I was a little bit confused as to why Hippopotas was in this specific matchup as well. It just didn't feel like it fit properly.
We don't have any we don't have any sand
there's no sand
synergy here.
juices on his team, so yeah.
I mean, Hippotas gets toxic and it gets slack off, which is nice. But you can almost slap that on. Most defensive ones have 8 recovery move and toxic. I definitely think in terms of, I suppose it's a ground type, and that could be nice to catch Rotom. And then you have Eviolite, which can be nice, but I think Hippotas is so outclassed by Hippowdon that it is just the case that, like I say, I really want to be proven wrong with this, but I would only use Hippotas if I was really relying on a sand team, which is why I was a little bit confused to see it here.
Yeah, I think last season it ended up being part of a sand team and actually pulled in quite a bit of work, but yeah, it had a very, very defined role for that team last season.
For sure. It basically, you send it out, it sets weather, you might get toxic off if you're lucky, might get a slack off to heal your health back if you're lucky, and then you switch out. It's not much else it can do, I suppose. Manectric's a nice Pokemon. I really like Manectric as a pivot. It's one of my favorites. And yeah, Hawlucha is good. But I think Roops had control this whole match, really. I think it was the Holy Crusaders was on the back foot for the whole match, I think.
But we did get to see some very interesting things in this match as well, which was pretty cool.
I think the both of them have 2 of the more interesting teams in the draft. Some of the teams you can see are kind of similar, but those 2 have some of the more unique teams here.
Yeah. And then the very last match for this week, as well as for what was played for this week, was the Ankara Arcanines versus the Los Angeles Lycanrocs. This is our first 6-0 sweep for the season, which is very rare to find on week 1, but here we have it.
I've never seen a match so determined by Stealth Rocks and Whirlwind. We know Harem's done this in the past. Ironically, in the past, he's done this with Steelix. But the Los Angeles Lycanrocs just had nothing to deal with Skarmory, just Stealth Rocking and winding. And it was really ironic because his Steelix, if he had given the Steelix the same role, the pressure would have gone on the other way. Would it have changed the match? Maybe it definitely could have changed something. I don't know if it would have caused a win or a loss or anything, but it would have evened the playing field there a bit. But Harron had such the advantage with Skomori there, and he just had complete control. Every time the Los Angeles Lycan Rocks would switch, there'd just be a whirlwind, and he would have no control over what he was bringing and coming. It was quite brutal, quite the brutal match.
Any setup was pretty much gone within a move or two.
Yeah.
Oh. It was
I mean,
nice
we
to see.
definitely have things. Sorry, Karen.
Yeah, it was really good to see Credilli put in some work as well. That's been
Yeah,
such an
for
underrated
sure.
mon for so long, but he's on the kill leaderboard, as we'll see in a minute.
Yeah,
And
and I think. Sorry, Karen.
no, you go.
I was going to say it was the Ottawa Superiors who really showed us what Credilli could do last season. So seeing it carry on is really it's nice to see. It's a really underrated mon. Like I think it's PU in the Smogan rankings. So the fact that it's really performing well in draft makes me happy.
Yeah, it's definitely earned us B tier rating.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah, looking at both these teams, I thought that this match. Oh no, this match was done on Showdown, so it was never going to go to timer. But even with the amount of turns that were taken, this was not going to be a timer match, even if
no,
it had been on the Switch. Which, yeah, wasn't sure how that was going to go, especially with Harun's team being super tanky. If Danny had played well, that could have played out for a lot more
yeah,
turns, but just that control Harun had from the start just stopped there from being any control that Danny could really pull
yeah.
back.
Absolutely. I mean, you can see here that Danny has stuff that can deal with all the biggest threats that Harron has, but just Harron just did not give him the chance to use them. He had complete control with his whirlwinds, and just he felt in control of the situation the whole match.
Yeah.
As we said with previous people, though, this could change everything for next week. It could be completely different. So, but yeah, really impressed by Harron's performance this week.
And as the weeks go by, everyone starts studying previous battles from their opponents, and you start to get a feel for what tactics and what's playstyle your opponents bring. So by mid-season, everyone's going to be playing completely differently to try and adapt
Yeah,
to
for sure.
their opponents and adapt their gameplay to be less predictable as well. So you end up with some very interesting shakeups sort of mid-season.
Definitely.
So kill leaderboard. Very blue dominated. It's only 60% dominated by the blue. Mama Swine pulling off 6 kills and no deaths, right at the top there.
By far the biggest lead, yeah. Not a surprising one after that match, but
Yep.
still a very impressive one.
Yeah. And then 3 zeros, so that Volcarona from Nat taking out half of Bam's team.
Yeah.
That Jinx, I did not expect Jinx to pull as much weight as it did, but it came off with a very respectable 3-0 there.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Slowking just never wants to die. I believe one of those kills was from Toxic that had been set multiple turns before, so it wasn't a direct Slowking death, it was an indirect one, but that still goes to the Toxic setter, which was Slowking. Moongus, respectable 3 there, but it did get knocked down in the end, so it's the only one on the leaderboard with a death, but that still puts it in the top 5, so that's not too bad.
Yes.
Dragapult came in, did some damage, left. Same with Jolteon. That was definitely a very fun match to watch, that one. Mama Swine again on the board because Manny is such a good boy.
Yeah, you had him last time, didn't you?
I did. Manny pulled off some very good wins for me there.
Yeah.
And then Quagsire and Credilli for the Ankara and Arcanines. So yeah,
Yes.
we've got 2 coaches with 2 of their mons on the leaderboard there. And it's going to be interesting to see where this goes with the weeks going by.
I would be very surprised to see Mamoswine drop off the leaderboard. I think it's one of those mons that's consistently good in almost every situation. Um, and I do think both Leor and Utah Muse know how to play Mamo, so I expect to see it remain on there. Dragapult and Jolteon are two as well. I expect to see remain on here. I would be surprised to see Slowking, Amoonguss, and Jinx remain here too long. I think they'll drop off to more sweeper style Pokemon. And I think Volcarona will stay on here as well. That's my predictions.
But that's pretty much it for the first week wrap up. I think we've covered pretty much everything, haven't we?
Yeah, we've pretty much gone over everything.
Yeah, we'll be back in hopefully this time next week with the week 2 wrap
Yes.
up. It'll be interesting to see where the leaderboard sits at that. And yeah, I think we've already had one really good match already for week 2. So check out the follow post in the announcements, of course. All of the matches get linked onto there. So if you want to see what we're talking about here, follow through on that. You'll get notifications as well when the next matches get published and put up on the page. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for watching, guys.